So today we're going to work with angle relationships called supplementary angles and vertical angles. Any prior knowledge of those? Anybody know anything about supplementary angles? Anybody know anything about what we mean when we say we have supplementary angles? Danny? Okay, those aren't supplementary angles, but she is looking at angles A and C, people. Look on your papers at A and C. She's looking at angles A and C, and she said, wouldn't it be these two if we know that C is 120, wouldn't A be 120? So we're going to explore that. Maybe she's right, but those aren't supplementary angles. Anybody know what special relationship those angles have to each other? No? Okay, well, then we don't have a whole lot of apparently prior knowledge of this, or we don't remember it anyway. So I have stated at the beginning of our notes today, it says, knowing just one of the angle measures in that drawing, we should be able to find the other three. Okay? So which one is given to us in the drawing? C. Angle C. So the measure, this little m here means measure, little m. So measure of angle C is 120 degrees, right? That's what the drawing tells us. So that one we know. But just knowing that one, we can now find the other three. So we're going to look for the measures of A, B, and D. I say, let's start with angle B. Angle B and angle C, they're right here. That would be these guys right here. They form what we call, what type of an angle, what do we call an angle that when the two together share a side, and yet the other side of them is just an extension, it's almost like a line. Anybody know what kind of angle that is called when two come together like B and C do? I don't know what that's called. Starts with an S. Starts with an ST. Starts with an STR. Straight, yeah, they make a straight angle. So they form a straight angle, those two. So put that in there. So what can you tell me about the measure of a straight angle? Does anybody know what the measure of a straight angle is? 160, I think I might have heard it. Paikia? It is 180, yes, 180 degrees, 180 degrees. So that means since B and C come together to form that straight angle, since the two of them together make that straight angle, their sum has to be 180 degrees. When you add their two measures together, that means we better get 180 degrees. Well then, since we now know that B and C together form a 180 degree angle, how can we find B? What do you think we could do? Carla? Subtract what from what? I think you were going to say it right the first time. Subtract 120 from 180. In other words, we are going to say that we know that the angle that it's together with, angle C, is 180 degrees. So if we take out that 180 degrees and subtract how much we know its partner is, the other angle is, that should tell us how much angle B measures. Is 180 minus 120 60 degrees? Is that right? 60? Okay. Well, now we should be able to go up in our drawing and say, okay, well, guess what, folks? We now know that this one is a 60 degree angle. We just found the measure of that one. Okay, let's move on to, I say next, let's find D. Well, what do angle D and angle C form? Angle D and angle C. So here these guys are right here. What do they form? So does an S. Straight. Straight. They form a straight angle also. Those two form a straight angle. So we know that their sum has to be what? 180 degrees. Well, do we just happen to know, since we're looking for D, do we just happen to know C? Do we know C? The measure of angle C? Yeah, we do. It's right here. Right here. Right there. See, this is C right there. We already know it, so we're going to really do the same thing we just did to get B, aren't we? Straight angle. C and D form a straight angle. We know that C is 120. So what are we going to do, class? Subtract. We're going to take 180 and we're going to subtract. Guess that's not what I want. I want a pen. We're going to take that 180 that the two of them together are, subtract the measure of angle C, and what are we going to get? 60. So now we can go up in our drawing and say, oh, guess what? We now know how much angle D measures also. It is 60 degrees. We only have one left. That's A. So it says now, let's find A. Tell me something about angle A and angle D. Look at your drawing. Tell me something about angle A and D. They form a straight angle. They form a straight angle also. Well, if the two of them together form a straight angle, their sum has to be 180 degrees. Well then, what do we need to do next? See our what? 180 subtract 60. Okay, so why are we taking away 60? Let's be reminded why we're going to take away 60. Because I agree with you. Can you tell me why? What two angles are we talking about right now? A and D. And since we already know that D is 60, we can subtract it from 180. That's right. So 180, take away 60. How much does that angle measure? 120 degrees. So now we can go up to our drawing and say, we now know what angle D is also, or angle A, excuse me. Angle A is 120 degrees. Oh, that's what I think Danny said, didn't she? That angle A is going to measure 120 degrees. Okay. So, anybody want to ask any questions? Or catch up? Or move on? He says, yeah, move on, maybe. Okay. Okay, let's go to the back side then. Since we found all four angle measures now, I've already, I've recreated the drawing and I've put those four angle measures in our drawing already. And I want you now to answer this question. What do you notice about the measure of angle C and the measure of angle A? Harley? They're the same. What do you notice about the measure of angle B and the measure of angle D? They're the same. When we say they are the same, that's the same as saying they are equal, aren't they? Yeah, they're equal to each other. Okay. Well, now those pairs, C and A, B and D, they have a special relationship called something. Remember, we already tried to remember what that was. Anybody got it yet? Let me give you a little hint. It starts with V. What did you say, wait? Barcode. I said V, V. V. Didn't pronounce that well enough, huh? Well, look at, in fact, the angles, like there's a V and the other one that meets up with it at that point. It's an upside down V. That would make it easy to remember what those kinds are called. Vertical. They are vertical. Good job. Vertical angles. That relationship those pairs have to each other, A to C, B to D, their relationship with each other, they're vertical angles. And we discovered up here that vertical angles are the same, so we're going to say vertical angles are equal to each other. Vertical angles are equal to each other. So when we see that we have a vertical angle relationship, we can count on that. So that's why when Danny says, I believe that angle A is going to be 120 degrees, it's because angle A and angle C have that vertical angle relationship that says we are going to be equal to each other, and we knew what C was. So that, therefore, we can say, oh, well, then that means A will be the same measure. Okay, and then the other relationship we're going to talk about is what we use on the front page to help us get all those measures. When two angles form a straight angle, or their sum is what again? 180 degrees. When two angles form a straight angle, or in other words, their sum is 180 degrees, what kind of relationship do those guys have? It also starts with S, like straight angle. Starts with an S, right? Supplementary. We call that angle relationship between the two of them supplementary. Kind of a long word. Make sure you spell it right. You can do it. Supplementary. And then the word angles. They have that relationship. So side-by-side angles that form a straight angle are called what? Are called what? Straight S. Supplementary. Yes, they're called supplementary. Okay, so this is the important thing for us today. We have to be able to recognize these relationships. When do we have vertical angle relationships? And when do we have supplementary angle relationships? Because in your homework, you're going to be finding a bunch of missing angle measures. Okay? Questions, anyone? Okay, let's go do some practice then. Now that we know our stuff, let's go do some practice. Our directions say find the measure of the angles in the problems below. Be sure to use what you know about supplementary and vertical angles. We just learned some stuff about them, didn't we? Supplementary angles add up to what? 180 degrees. Vertical angles what? No, they're not 180. Vertical angles are?
Supplementary.
No, they're not supplementary. Unless they're 90-degree angles, because then 90-degree angles would add up to 180, but Tyler? They're equal to each other, that's right. That's what the relationship is we need to remember about vertical. So supplementary angles, we've got to remember they add up to 180. Vertical, they're equal to each other. So we're going to use those relationships to help us find all these missing angle measures. So first of all, over here off to the side, I want us to identify what relationship do angles D and angle A have. Are they the supplementary relationship or the vertical? What do you think? The vertical? Okay, here they are right here. They look like this. On opposite sides of that vertex? I don't think so. What are they? They form a straight angle, and straight means the other S word, supplementary. So these guys are supplementary, so let's write that in there. There's their relationship. That's the first thing you always have to determine is what's their relationship. Because now, let's just jump over there and say, well, since we already know D, we should be able to find out A by doing what? What should we be able to do? If angle D and angle A are supplementary, Harlan? Don't subtract by 180. Take something away from 180. What are we going to take away from 180? 60. So 180, take away 60. What's the measure of angle A? 120. Okay, tell me something about the relationship between D and B. D and B. What's these guys' relationship? D and B. Okay? They're vertical. So they each make a V and they meet at their vertex, at their vertices at that point. So they are vertical. Well then, now that we know that angle D and angle B are vertical, should we be able to answer the next question, which is what is the measure of angle B? What would it be? 60 degrees because, well, do we have to do any subtracting this time? No, not this time because we're not talking supplementary, we're talking vertical. What's the relationship for vertical, Katie? They're equal to each other, and since D is 60 degrees, that means B has to be 60 degrees. Well, now we're down to just angle C, and look it over here. I say, let's look for a vertical angle relationship. That's my favorite one. I don't have to do any subtracting. Which angle makes a vertical angle relationship with angle C? Which of those up there make a vertical angle relationship with C? I want everybody to come up with an answer. A. A. So you're saying these guys right here? Yeah. Angle A. So angle C and angle A are vertical. Well, then what would be the measure of angle C? 120 degrees. Do we have to do a subtraction problem? No. We know that the measure of angle A is 120 degrees. If they have a vertical angle relationship, we get to say, oh, they're equal to each other. Now I want you to notice something about all of these angles, and they're the sum of all of them, okay? So help me out here. When you put all four angles together, when you add all their measures together, what does that equal? What do you get? Ikea? 360. 360 degrees. So then I bet you could tell me something else. In a full circle, what's the measure? Okay, 360. A 360 degree, it makes a full circle. Half a circle is 180. You remember, straight angle. Half a circle is 180. Okay, so when we have found all the angle measures around an intersection like we have right here, they better all add up to what? 360. Half of them should add up to 180. The other half should add up to 180, because 180 and 180 together makes a full circle, and that is 360. Okay. Let's look at number 2. Tell me the relationship between C and A. Angle C and angle A. What relationship do they have, class? Vertical. They are vertical. So we're looking at C and A in the drawing and saying, oh, they come together with those B's and they share an intersection point. So can we say right now then what the measure of angle A is? 45 degrees. Because why? Because vertical angles are equal to each other, yeah? Vertical angles are equal to each other. Okay, what relationship do angles C and B have? What relationship do they have? Supplementary. Let's write that down. This is how you're going to support your answers in your homework. Well, then that means if they're supplementary, what are we going to have to do to get our answer this time for the missing angle measure B? Okay, Danny, what should they do? Yeah, we know that C, its partner, is 45 degrees, so we have to take 45 away from 180 and see what we get. Let's go over here and do it. What do you get, Sammy? 35? Wait, you disagree or what?
130.
135. He wants to add a 1. Should we do that? Because now what has to be true? If we went with your answer, Sammy, would the 35 and the 45 combine to be 180? No, they'd only combine to be 80, wouldn't they? So that's why we can't forget about that. We didn't have to borrow from that 1, so it's still there. So we're going to say that the measure of angle B is 135 degrees. Well, I'm looking for an angle that has a vertical angle relationship with D, since D is the one we still have left to find. Harley? B. So when we look at angle D and B, we can say angle D and angle B are vertical. Well, do we know angle B? Yeah, what is it?
35.
Well, then what does that make D? 135 degrees, because they have a vertical angle relationship. Okay, so before we move on, I want to make sure that we're clear on when you're looking for a missing angle measure, you need to be able to set up a relationship first. Okay, I don't want just numbers put on your paper for Monday. I want you to say, okay, since I know this one, what relationship does it have to that one? I'm going to write that down first, just like we're doing over here. See how we're writing down these relationships? And then I'm going to be able to give my answer. Then I'm going to be able to do what I need to do. Sometimes I have to subtract, sometimes I don't, right? When do you have to subtract? When they have what relationship? Supplementary. Okay, so let's go to the back side and practice a couple more, I think. So this is what we would call our support over here on the right. So, which one did they give us? They gave us B. So, we need A. So I say to myself, okay, well then I should look for a relationship between B and A. So angle B and angle A, what relationship do they have? They're supplementary. They make a straight angle, S for straight, S for supplementary. Well then that means, what do I have to do to get the measure of angle A? We're going to subtract that 92 from 180. So we'll go off over here to the side and what do you get? 88? You know, I do subtracting in my head so much that I almost can't do it with borrowing and all of that, so I just need you to check me out. Did you guys get 88? Legitimately? Okay, so we're going to say then that the measure of angle A is 88 degrees, which is what I would say it is, but I'm just not sure if my subtraction was good. Okay, well next they want the measure of angle C. So we look at angle C and we say, you know what? Sometimes it's almost a good idea to do this. Since we already now know what A is, it might be a good idea just to put that right in our drawing. If A is 88 degrees, and the next one I need to find is C, which relationship do you want to use? By the way, there's 2 different relationships, remember. You get to use whichever one you want that will work. So what relationship do you want to use? Vertical angle relationship? So in other words, angle C and angle what are vertical? A, and we just found A, didn't we? Okay, so now what can we say about the measure of angle C? It's 88 degrees. Well, that leaves us angle D. So, by the way, remember we're kind of like trying to make our life a little bit easier. You're saying, okay, I now know those three. What would be a smart relationship to set up so I don't have to work quite so hard to get the measure of D? Tyler, you got an idea for me? No? Supplementary. Okay, which one would D be supplementary? Which supplementary angle do you want to use for D?
C.
Angle C. Okay, so we could use angle C and we could say angle C and angle D are supplementary. There's one relationship we could set up. Well, then if they're supplementary, then what does that mean we have to do? We're looking for D. Do we know C? Do we know C? Yeah, we do, don't we? So couldn't we do 180 take away C, which is 88? Okay, 180 take away 88. What's that become? Somebody got it for me? 92, she says. Do you guys agree? You say 82? Anybody else want 82? Any 92s? Seems like the more popular answer. Okay, well then I'll just kind of quickly do my borrowing and, so 2, and then I gotta borrow here again. Oh, I think I get 92 also. Is there anybody else in here that says, I didn't want to work that hard, I can think of even another relationship? Tyler, there's nothing wrong with the relationship Tyler set up for us. We got it, didn't we? In fact, anybody got their calculators handy? Would all 4 of those now around the circle, would they add up to 360? Check it out. You can start wherever you want, but make sure you do all 4 of them, adding them together. Sammy shake her head yes. Harley's showing me her calculator. She's got 360 on it. Because if we did 360, we're good. Yes? Anybody else? Harley, you got it? Anybody else did it? Sylvia, you got it? Hayden? Okay, good. So it seems like we might be right. Okay, does anybody else have a suggestion for us? Because I actually have something over here that I'm saying, well, let's look at the relationship between B and D. What relationship do B and D have? I can't? They are vertical angles, aren't they? So we could have used that relationship. We only need one relationship to find the missing piece. So we could use the supplementary relationship that Tyler set up, or we could use the vertical relationship that Paikia just talked about, because if there's did we know the measure of angle B to help us find the measure of angle D? Yeah, we knew it was angle B was 92, so that means D has to be 92, doesn't it? Okay. Hey, I kind of wish I hadn't set up all of this, but I want you to fill in all of those blanks over on the side. I want you to start figure out what all those relationships are for me, please. Don't even figure out any measures right now. Just figure out all the relationships there are that I started for us. Okay, who's going to share with us the relationship D and A have? Harley? D and A are supplementary. And how about the next relationship? So this one was, we said that angle D and angle B are supplementary. I might lose my document here, but we'll see what happens. Sammy, what do you say that D and B are? Vertical. They are vertical. Okay, D and B, she says, are vertical. That's their relationship. And then what makes, which angle has the vertical relationship to angle C? Kaden? Angle A. Okay, well now using those relationships we just set, let's see if we can figure out the answers for these guys then. Measure of angle A. Well, if A and D are supplementary, what are we going to do? Subtract from 180, right? So what are we subtracting? 173. That's a big angle. What's left over? What's 173 from 180? 7. Okay, thanks. You're going to make me work really hard. Okay. Well, now the next two relationships we set up are vertical, so we don't have to work as hard, do we? Angle D and angle B are vertical, so since do we know angle D? Yeah. So what's the measure of angle B then? 173, because they have a vertical angle relationship, so they are going to be equal to each other. And then the measure of angle C, what does it have to be? 7 degrees, because it is vertical angle with A, and we found A to be 7, so now that means C is also 7 degrees, isn't it? Does that add up to 360 degrees? Check this out. Does that add up to 360? Quick, Sylvia. Sylvia says it does. Tyler says it does. Idea is shaking her head yes. Shaylee says yeah. They're all good, then we must be good. Whew, that's good. Okay.